Welcome to another episode of Life from Whatever Else. I am here at the studios of the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and as you can see, I am here by myself. We had wanted to shoot last night. Pablo was going to be here. We also had Will Watson scheduled to come in, but due to the weather and Will feeling a little bit under the weather, we decided not to shoot last night, so I am in here this afternoon by myself. So that's basically what happened. But I'm here doing a show this week, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. So since Will was going to be here, we were going to talk a little bit about fighting and what's gone on this past weekend. There were some great fights. This obviously comes out on Monday. We shoot it this week, but this past weekend, obviously being last weekend, there were some great fights. Sergey Kovalev was fighting. That was a good fighting. That was a good fight. Good fighting. That was a good fight. Good fight for Kovalev, actually. Good sparring session in essence. Nice way to rebound after the Ward loss. And not really much to say about that. Dmitry Bivol, I think that's how you say it. He was the co-main event. He won his fight, even though he took a little damage, got a nice little, knot on his head there, but he won his fight. And I was just reading before I started doing this that they're going to come back to MSG in July. So, look forward to that. The big fight of the weekend was Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz. It was a really good fight. It wasn't necessarily technically the best fight. I think they're obviously better fight. I think Joshua and Klitschko was a much better boxing match. This one was kind of a brawl at times. Guys kind of swinging for the fences. But, it was entertaining nonetheless, and that's really, at the end of the day, what matters. Early in the fight, Ortiz was, winning the fight. Wilder got in a knockdown. Kind of what you expected. Then Ortiz, the middle rounds and up to the seventh round was really, taking control of the fight. Basically had Wilder finished in the seventh round. Ran out of time in that round. I think he got really tired afterwards because even though he performed well, I think you could tell that his performance wasn't necessarily the same that it was early in the fight. So in rounds 8 and 9, he was doing well. Then in 10, Wilder caught him, and that was kind of the beginning of the end right there. Eventually knocked him out, and Wilder won. So after the fight, obviously you have the talk of Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. I think that's the fight that a lot of people want to see. I don't necessarily think that's the fight that a lot of people are going to get right away. I don't think people are going to get that fight right away because I think that the promoters will want to kind of milk it. Damn, excuse my yawning. I can't, help it. But anyway, I think the promoters kind of want to milk that fight. And they want to... I think the promoters are going to want to milk that fight and, prolong it. The risk you run with that, obviously, is, you kind of saw it with Pacquiao and Mayweather. As big as that fight was, imagine how much bigger it could have been had you gotten those two, right in their primes, right at the top of what they were doing. I think a lot of people, once they did fight, even though a lot of people watched it, it was a big pay-per-view, I think a lot of people admitted that, Pacquiao wasn't necessarily the same fighter. Floyd wasn't the same fighter, even though he had lost. Damn. Sorry for the yawning, guys. But yeah, I think with Wilder and Joshua, man, you want to get him in there. The interesting thing, though, one, Anthony Joshua has to get to Joseph Parker at the end of this month. That's a tough fight, but it's a fight that Joshua should win. And once once that fight is finished, then you can start focusing on the future. So, when that fight takes place, Deontay Wilder is going to be there. So the assumption is that maybe maybe he gets in the ring, maybe he issues a challenge, things like that. I hope it happens next. I don't know if it will, but we'll see. Wilder to me, and that fight, I don't know. That's really a pick'em fight. Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, because I think both guys have shown vulnerability in the ring. Obviously, Wilder in his last fight against Ortiz, and then Joshua against Klitschko, both guys were almost finished. So both guys have shown vulnerability. I think Wilder is probably the harder puncher, but I also think that Wilder's maybe a little Wilder is a little wilder of a fighter. In the ring, I think he tends to open himself up. So really, if he doesn't land that punch, what happens? Because you kind of saw it, in the UFC with Francis Ngannou and Stipe Miocic. Ngannou was basically all about landing that big punch. When he didn't land that punch, Stipe was able to, eventually wear him down, take him down, grind out the fight. And he was able to grind out the fight, and Ngannou looked like he was lost the rest of that fight. So obviously in boxing you don't have takedowns, so it'll be a little easier for somebody like a Wilder, to land a punch in 12 rounds. I just want to see what happens if he doesn't land that punch, or if Joshua takes that punch. That would be interesting to see. But obviously we'll discuss that more when the time comes. We still got, obviously we still got to get through this next Joshua fight, and then all of the press stuff. You also can't forget about a guy like Tyson Fury. He might throw his name in the mix, so he can come back and maybe fight one of these guys. So we'll see what ends up happening there. The other big boxing story that has come out recently, the positive test that Canelo Alvarez had for clenbuterol. I believe it's a steroid, clenbuterol. I am never sure about all of these substances. Never know exactly what is a steroid, what's not a steroid, the whole 9 yards. So, but he tested positive for it. And the interesting thing about that is that has actually been, sorry guys, I just had to take a pause there. That has actually been associated with a lot of Mexican athletes recently, because of tainted meat. Now, we don't know all the specifics. I mean, it could obviously be that he was taking it just himself straight up without any meat, but we don't know the specifics yet. Oh, god damn. Sorry guys. I don't know why I keep yawning. But yeah, so he had tested positive for that. It was a voluntary drug test. Most like, I mean, the fight is obviously in question. People don't know. I would say it's still going to happen. I don't think it's going to get called off anytime soon. There's too much money involved in it. I just don't see either side pulling out of this fight. It's a big fight for both fighters. I think both guys want to put on a better performance than the last time. Not so much that the fight was bad last time, but it did look like maybe it was almost like an extended feeling out process. So I think that this time each fighter is going to want to, put their best foot forward and really show the world what they have. Triple G talks about, fighting in a Mexican style. Canelo is Mexican, obviously, so you would expect more fireworks. What weren't really that many fireworks in the first fight. It was a very good fight, but hopefully it doesn't get called off. I mean, as a fan myself, I don't really care. I'm sure fighters out there, say that they want the sport cleaned up. And I think that you'll never really truly clean up the sport. I think all you can really do is test as best you can and hope for hope to, get the proper results and do what you can. But guys will always take something. They'll always find a way. There'll always be people who present different drugs and things like that. So it's always going to be involved. I think we should just know about it and, go forward. But, I'll elaborate on that in the future when Will is here, obviously. Yeah, so that was the other story with Canelo. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think the fight will still happen. I don't think the fight's going to get called off anytime soon. Too much money involved. And I think people want to see that rematch. People want to see it now. I don't think people wanted to see it right away, actually. I really don't think people wanted to see a rematch, their next fight. But since the rematch was announced, I think people want to see it. So from there, what else is going on in the fighting world? John Jones had his license revoked to fight. So I think with that, it's automatic. I believe it's automatically like a year before he can put in for his license again. We'll see what ends up happening. I can't pull up the story right now. Let me see if I can find something on my phone about it. Let's see. John Jones license. Yeah, he was suspended because he tested positive for a substance after his fight with Daniel Cormier. Let's see what we got here. Wow, on ABC News. Voted unanimously. Okay, so California State Athletic Commission voted unanimously on Tuesday to uphold the decision to revoke John Jones' license, essentially banning the UFC star from competition for 1 year. Appeared before the commission for a failed drug test submitted in July. Jones tested positive for metabolites of the anabolic steroid turinabol. No clue. So his license was revoked on August 28th of 2017. That means Jones is not eligible to apply for a license for 1 year, meaning his ineligibility will end in August. Certification is only in the state of California, though the UFC and other states are expected to honor it. So here's the deal. So with that being said, a lot of people are talking about the possibility of John Jones possibly facing Brock Lesnar if Brock Lesnar decides to return to the UFC. Brock recently, there was a WWE event, kind of some controversy around. He was supposed to be at Monday Night Raw, I believe. He wasn't there. Instead, he was taking a picture with Dana White. At least he was on Instagram taking a picture with Dana White. People are saying that John Jones' next fight might be against Brock. Don't know about that. As much as I would love to see that, I am not 100% sure about that. I have an idea in my head, and I want to look something up here real quick. The reason that I don't know about Jones Brock Lesnar is just that Jones coming off of a drug suspension in essence, and being asked to move up to heavyweight to fight Lesnar. I just don't know if that jives. As much as I want to see the fight, I just don't know if the UFC would want to do that right away. I also don't know. I would feel that they I think the owners of the UFC would want Brock in there against a big name like John Jones. I just don't know, because I was thinking about it, I just don't know if that's the best fight right away. I would love to see Brock get in there against somebody. I don't. It's tough. I don't really know who. I don't want to see him in there against Francis. I totally agree, because if he gets punched by Francis, it is over. And a suggestion that I do have that I was thinking, I'm reading about this. Sorry for the silence here, guys. I'm reading this real quick. I have an out of the box idea. Two guys coming off of injury. Two guys coming off of injury. Well, not injury, off of long layoffs. What if you did John Jones coming back against Cain Velasquez? I think that would be a really interesting fight. Find somebody else for Brock. Maybe. An interesting. Even though I just read that Alistair Overeem, I believe, is fighting Curtis Blades. I think a guy like Curtis Blades could have been a really good first fight for Brock. If he's gonna do it regularly, if he was gonna come in regularly, give him a showcase fight, because Blades is kind of similar to him, and I think it might. Blades doesn't necessarily want to get punched in the face either. So two guys that don't want to get punched in the face, both guys will try to take each other down. That could have been interesting. Maybe you could put Brock in there against somebody like Derek Lewis. That could be an intriguing fight as well. If you wouldn't do John Jones, I would just love to see John Jones and Cain Velasquez. I think that would be a tremendous. If he wants to move up to heavyweight, do it against a guy who's come off of a long layoff. So neither guy can really sit there and say, okay, this guy's been fighting more than the other. Even though John Jones has fought, I think, more than Cain has recently by like maybe one fight or so. But I would be really interested in that fight, because it's almost got a built-in storyline in and of itself, where if, let's say, Daniel Cormier beats Stipe, Miocic, okay? I always say Miocic, people say Miocic, but let's say Daniel Cormier beats him, and Daniel Cormier doesn't retire. Let's say Daniel Cormier says, I want to run at heavyweight. Let's do this. Maybe what you do is you give Brock a first fight. You let Brock then face Stipe. Should Stipe lose, then you can have Cain Velasquez and John Jones. How interesting would that be? How interesting would it be to see Daniel Cormier? Because Daniel Cormier, I wouldn't be shocked if he was in Cain's corner for that fight. How interesting would that be? And then the other storyline with that fight would basically be Cain. If Cain were to win that fight, does he face Daniel Cormier in a teammate versus teammate fight? And vice versa. What happened? Would Cormier want to fight Cain? And the other situation is, if John Jones wins, then you got to do John Jones and Daniel Cormier for the heavyweight title. I mean, I just think that's a possibility. Because Cain said he was eyeing a return to UFC 226 would be July. Jones's suspension ends in well, it's not a suspension, it's a license revocation. So he can apply for a license in August again, meaning in a sense he could fight like as early as, let's say, September or something like that. Just a possibility that I'm throwing out there. That is a very interesting possibility. That, yeah, I just kind of thought of it right on the fly here. I did not think of that before, but I think that is something that could be a possibility. But you never know what can happen. We'll see what ends up happening. You never know. Maybe Floyd Mayweather even ends up in the cage. Who knows about that? But yeah, I mean, I'll discuss a lot more of this when Will comes in, either in the next couple weeks or maybe after his next fight, which will be in April. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get some people on to discuss that, because a lot of things turn into my head right now about the fight world. So there's that. So you guys have heard my opinion on that. What else is going on? Stormy Daniels, porn star, suing the president, saying their non-disclosure agreement from their affair is null and void, basically, because the president didn't sign it. President's lawyer apparently gave her money out of his pocket to shut her up before the election. Now she's speaking. She wants to speak on it. Yeah, so what an interesting time. We live in such an interesting time. Yeah, but this president really is a mess. People can talk about the positive things he's done, things like that. I don't really see it. Even if he has done positive things, it's almost like everything that he does is some type of catch, and at some point it'll come back around and haunt us. So, yeah, it's an interesting story that everybody's following. Also, it seems to be that there's more stuff connecting, Trump and Russia. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see here. I want to see something, because one of his people are leaving the cabinet left and right. I mean, they're all over the place. Yeah, so it's just crazy, everything that's going on. Yeah, and then former Trump aide Sam Nunberg late Monday that he would end up cooperating. Yeah, Sam Nunberg, apparently former Trump aide, went on a bunch of shows, and he was saying stuff, and he was even asked if most likely Robert Mueller has something on Trump. He said that he probably does. So I mean, things are getting there, and I wouldn't be shocked if just at some point people just get tired and are just like, we can't deal with this anymore. We don't want him as president. Who knows? Either it'll happen soon or it'll happen at the next election. We'll see what happens. He obviously still has his supporters out there, but I think even for people who, for the people who didn't 100% support him and maybe just supported him because they're Republican or they didn't want to vote for Hillary, I think the act is wearing thin on those people. So we'll see what happens, and there's that. Hopefully there are no more school shootings. Just want to say that the school shooting stuff is ridiculous. I mean, it's always ridiculous when you hear, even if you hear one story, it's ridiculous when you hear, one story about somebody walking into a school and shooting up kids, teenagers, whatever. But, to hear about this every couple months is ridiculous. And I think that things need to be done, and things more than just arming teachers, because a lot of teachers are not equipped for that. I think it's great in theory, but I've thought about it, and I just don't really think that that's the best way to go. Um, yeah, we need to think about everything: gun laws, how easy it is to get guns. And yeah, people who say it's a mental health problem, I don't. I think at times when people say that, I think it's disrespectful to people who have mental health problems, who don't shoot up schools, don't shoot up hospitals, things like that. Um, not, a lot of the people that make the argument that not everybody with guns shoots up schools. Well, not everybody with mental illness will shoot up schools either. And then all these people who talk about hiring military people to be in schools and be armed. There's you can't. What happens in the situation that you find somebody who has PTSD, and as soon as something triggers that, they go into a rage or something like that? What happens if you run into a situation like that? Like, we need to think through these situations to get to a solution. If we don't think through these situations, we're just going to keep having problems, and it's going to get worse. So we really need to think about this and fix it, because I think it's ridiculous that we're seeing, 17 kids getting killed 17 people getting killed at a school, 10. I mean, if one person gets killed at school, it's ridiculous. To see, multiple people, almost 20 people get killed at schools, not what should be happening in our world. Not at all what should be happening in our world. Yeah, so there's that. And, we're doing a quick show today. So the last thing that I kind of wanted to just talk about today was, I know that sometimes when I'm in here, I talk about the direction of the show. I do have a direction for the show, and we're going to be doing some fun things coming up. I'm going to have a new segment where, I'm always thinking in my head about sports and how to fix it and things like that. So I think, you're going to be seeing, I know you're going to be seeing a segment for the show up on the YouTube page. Called I don't really know the name of it. I've got a couple ideas in mind for it, but basically what the segment is going to be about me just giving my ideas on how to make sports better. And a lot of the things that run through my head when I'm watching sports, when I hear people talk about sports, I will flesh them out for you guys. And you guys can give me your feedback, give me your opinions on them. But I'll be shooting that coming up. Also, we're going to be shooting with Pablo and Gustav. We say Gustav in quotation marks. Pep talk. Giving some advice, things like that. So that's also going to be up on the YouTube page. And then, Cooking with Pablo, put up the first episode of that where we made some delicious pork chops. So we'll make some more dishes, some interesting dishes. Maybe we'll even go to some restaurants or whatever with Pablo, and he can cook with some world-class chefs. So you'll see all that on the YouTube page. The other thing that I wanted to say was, I just wanted to say thank you to all the people who have subscribe to any social media that we have. I'm really active on Instagram. Well, really active for me. I know I got to be more active, but yeah, the follower count on Instagram, it's not necessarily where I want it to be, but it's definitely growing. And I wanted to thank the people who have followed my page and like anything that I put on there. I appreciate all the support, even though right now it's not a ton of you guys. Thank you, because every time I see a like or a subscribe, I know something is working. So, or at least I think something is working. So that means a lot to me. Go to the YouTube page. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you guys have a YouTube account. If you have I think if you have a Gmail account, you can just go and subscribe right there. So go ahead and do that. Comment, anything that you can to show support. Means the world to not only me, but when Pablo's here, Gustav, Carlos is here, any guest that's on here, It means a lot. I mean, I got like 30 something episodes. They don't really have a ton of views, but hey, like I always tell anybody who asks me about the show, I always tell them, slow and steady wins the race. So, we just take it one step at a time, and we do that, and we'll eventually get to where we want to be. It takes time. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this week's show. It's really short today because I'm in here by myself and I didn't want to bore you guys to death. So just wanted to give you kind of some quick bullet points of what was on my mind. And yeah, just keep checking everything out. Catch us the social media pages, Life and Whatever Else, no spaces. That's YouTube. And then LAWESHOWSM. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. I'm sorry that I haven't really updated much other than the Instagram, but I am getting there. So bear with me, people. I'm still kind of learning everything. And then if you want to email us, you can email us at lifeandwhateverelse@gmail.com. So lifeandwhateverelse, no spaces, @gmail.com. You can email us there, give us some feedback. And give us feedback there. Like our pages, follow our pages, do all that. Lifeandwhateverelse.com as well. You can go there. And, that's that. So thanks, guys, for, checking this episode out. Appreciate you guys checking it out. And, we'll be back soon. Peace.